Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodandana Vrajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari, Radha Kunja Bihari, Radhe. Jaya Radha Jaganatha Jaya Jaganatha Jaya Baladeva Mai Subhadra Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Balagopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Goranita Jaya Goranita Jaya Goranita Jaya Goranita Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Jai Om Vishnupada Brahmhamsa Jaya Astatarashata Shishimati His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupada Brahmhamsa Pravarjaka Jaya Astatarashata Shishimati His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Shrimadbhagavatam Ki Jai Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to everybody for the morning Shrimadbhagavatam class. Thank you for joining. Thank you for this opportunity to words. It's been a little while, so I always have these long breaks. But we're reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, first canto, chapter 4, and today is text 30. Just say a prayer before we start. For those who don't know the prayer and would like to learn, you can see the prayers there as well. It is in the first canto, but it's in separate text. But if you search it on Google like that, you'll get it all together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Shubhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki. So I will follow Prabhu's advice and try to read it. I'll try to understand the pronunciation as best as we can. Tatapi bata me deyo. Tatapi bata me deyo. Hi atma cheva vivibuhu. Atma Shivatmana Vibhu Asampana Abati Asampana Ivavati Brahmavarchasya Brahmavarchasya Satmaha Tatapi bata me deyo. Hi Atma Chevatmana Vibhuhu.
Atma Saivatmana Vibhu
Asampana Ivabhati.
Asampana Ivavati
Brahmavarchasya Sattamaha.
Brahma Varshatama
Tatapi Bata Medeyo.
Tatapi Vatamedayo
Hi Atma Chevatmana Vibhu.
Atma Saivatmana Vibhu
Asampana Ivabhati.
Asampana Ivavati
Brahmavarchasya Sattamaha.
Brahma Varshasya Sattama
Anyone like to repeat?
Tatapi Vatamedayo
Tatapi Bata Medeyo.
Yatma Chaivatmana Vibhu
Yatma Chevatmana Vibhuhu.
Asampanna Ivavati
Apana Ivabhati.
Brahma Varchasya Sattamaha
Brahmavarchasya Sattamaha.
Tatapi Batamida Eyo
Tatapi Bata Medeyo.
Atma Chevat Mana Vibhu
Yatma Chevatmana Vibhuhu.
Asam Panna Ivahati
Asampanna Ivabhati.
Brahma Shasya Sattama
Brahmavarchasya Sattamaha. Would you like to try? Tatapi Bata Medeyo. Ayatma Chevatmana Vibhuhu. Asampanna Ivabhati. Brahmavarchasya Sattamaha. One day. Tatapi, although, but, defect, me, mine, dehiya, situated in the body, he, certainly, atma, living being, cha, and, eva, even, na, myself, vibhu, sufficient, asampanna, wanting in, eva abati, it appears to be, Brahmavarchasya, O the Vedantists, of the Vedantists, Sammata, Sattama, the Supreme. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. Please repeat. I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. Purport. Undoubtedly, Srila Vyasadeva was complete in all the details of Vedic achievements. Purification of the living beings in matter is made possible by the prescribed activities in the Vedas, but the ultimate achievement is different. Unless it is attained, the living being, even though fully equipped, cannot be situated in the incidentally normal stage. Srila Vyasadeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt dissatisfaction. These these prayers are in the beginning of Gita. If anyone wants to know the mantra, they can go over there. So, Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumiलितं Yena Tasmai Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Parnamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisheshanyavadi Pashata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Everyone hopefully fully awake and excited about them. So, this chapter 4, the appearance of Narada Muni. So we're reading quite a bit about this chapter. Just to summarize, we're understanding in the last couple of verses, or within this whole chapter, really, that Vyasadeva is feeling dissatisfied. He's written so many things on the Vedas and compiled so many things, but he's feeling dissatisfied. Here we see that Vyasadeva is actually now speaking with his spiritual master, who is Sri Narada Muni. So he's saying, I'm feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. So Vyasadeva, not an individual, right, has compiled all the Vedas, right? He's written the conclusion of the Vedanta Sutras, or what we call the Brahma Sutras, the 18 Puranas, all of these items, verses, verse after verse, and he's still dissatisfied. And now he's there in front of his spiritual master, Srila Narada Muni. And so, he's mentioning this dissatisfaction. And this is the amazing thing about spiritual master, right? Narada Muni appears when Srila Vyasadeva is feeling this, is in this position, right? When his disciple is in this position that he's distressed, right? Then Krishna is always ready to send his representative, right? So sometimes we don't see it. Krishna is there, and he sends his representatives to help us to come out of this distressful, this unsatisfied, this unfulfilled, incomplete position. So here Vyasadeva is ready to get the instructions now. We see similarly like in Bhagavad Gita, right? There comes a point in time where Arjuna is just like, I'm done. I don't know what to do. Please instruct me, right? And then Krishna starts to instruct. So here we see Vyasadeva is ready to get the instructions. And he's getting the instructions, he will be getting the instructions to compile Shrimadbhagavatam, right? So this, in this chapter, to see now the appearance of Narada Muni. So here Vyasadeva is making the point also that he's completely equipped with everything that is required in the Vedas, right? So what is the Vedas? Veda means knowledge, right? So the Vedas is a vast compilation of all of this knowledge, right? So much knowledge in the Vedas. It doesn't include just spiritual knowledge, it includes also all aspects of material knowledge too. So when you look at science, if you look at medical and health, if you look at time, sciences, astrology, astronomy, like so much stuff, so many topics, subjects are in the Vedas. So, and everything is included in this Vedas. So generally, Vedas, the complete science, everything is in this Vedas. Now, the Vedas were then classified into 3 different portions, right? There's the karma portion of the Vedas, there's the jnana kanda, and there's the upasana kanda. Okay, so the Vedas talk about and are classified in 3 different subjects. Now, majority of the Vedas that we hear about is, well, as devotees we hear about Shrimadbhagavatam, but in general, if you study the Vedas, you're going to get mostly karma kanda information. And this also, or what this information is how to make gradual progress in by engaging one's propensity according to the Vedic prescriptions. So if one wants to make real progress, instead of doing it in a sinful way or with sinful activities, someone can take the shelter and try to aspire by the duties of the Vedas. So let's explain that a little bit more. Like, people come to the Vedas, karma kanda process, because they want to make material progress in life, right? They can do it in a very sinful manner, or they can do it as prescribed by Vedas, which is given to us by who?
Krishna.
Krishna, yes. So Krishna has given prescribed duties of how to materially progress in life too, right? And we don't have to go in a sinful route. We can go in this way the instructions are given to us in the Vedas. Now, this system of Krishna's is so when we do gradually progress, or if we want to gradually progress, we don't actually have to deny the Vedas, right? We don't have to do it in a sinful way, because it's presenting us the path, okay? Now, in this age of Kali, do we have a lot of time? No. If we went to go to study all the Vedas, understand the prescribed duties, and follow each of them to make material progress, to come out of maybe our sense gratification, we don't have the time in this age of Kali. It's just not possible. We don't have the mental capacity, or at least I don't, mental capacity to understand all of this. So, to take these gradual steps and to study the whole Vedas, they can't understand it. Like, it's difficult to come with a conclusion, because we don't have the mental capacity, the energy, whatever it may be, right? The patience and so forth, to study all of this, to get to the conclusion of the Vedas. So, unfortunately, that's the situation now. And because the Vedanta Sutras are very, to understand all of these things is going to be very difficult for us to understand. They're like formulas, right? So, like, for example, if physics and someone says E equals mc squared, right? Like, and go ahead and explain that. Unless you're a physicist or you understand this really clearly, it's very difficult. I can keep repeating the formula over and over again, U equals mc squared, but unless I fully understand what it means and how to practically apply it, it's very difficult. What's the purpose? What's the point, right? If I cannot apply it, what am I going to do with it, right? So in the same way, so many formulas are given to us in the Vedas, but they're difficult to understand and to use. So we hear this famous verse, Ato Brahma Jigyasa. So literally speaking, and since it's presented to us by the acharyas, we actually have some hope to understand this very difficult subject matter. So in this Atota Brahma Jigyasa, the first word, ata, means now. Second word means therefore. Brahma Jigyasa means to inquire into the absolute. Now, if we take this formula and we say, now therefore inquire into the absolute. Like if I go to someone into the street, right? They may not necessarily like talking about, like, right? They're not going to understand this particular formula that we're just saying. So to someone, it can be very difficult for them to understand. But now if you go explain to them that, you got this human form of life, this very rare human form of life. So now you go and you inquire about who is the absolute truth, right? Then they can have some beginning to understand. It has to be explained. So even the Supreme Person of Godhead, as soon as a living entity is there, right, in the primary state, this living entity, it has these rasas, or these mellows, and they're actually engaged when the living entity engages in transcendental activities. This relationship is then developed with the Supreme Absolute Truth. So to understand all of this, again, it has to be explained or taught, right? Otherwise, it would just go over one's head. So this is the nature of the Vedanta Sutras. There's, but the formulas are actually very difficult to grasp. I don't know if you've had this experience, but when I first came into Krishna consciousness, and I had Bhagavad Gita, and they said, read. So I started reading. I didn't understand a single thing that was being said. Like, you're reading this, and you're just like, okay, right? Up until I started going to a Bhakti Riksha program, where a speaker explains verse by verse what is written in the Bhagavad Gita, then the knowledge starts to reveal itself, right? So to practically understand what is given to us. And the Vedas are so large, right? So it's very difficult to understand. If you're going to do it gradually, step by step, it's going to become overwhelming, right? Okay. So because it becomes overwhelming, Vyasadeva actually divided the Vedas into 4, right? So we also discussed this in the chapter. And he basically gave these 4 Vedas to different professors, right, who can actually look after and propagate this section of the Vedas. Because there's so many of them, right? He gave it to individuals to clear. You go and propagate these part of the Vedas. But still, where is this conclusion going? What is the point of all these Vedas? So in this age, the whole Vedas, they were divided into 4, and still the complete Vedas was not present. Because in this age of Kali, this knowledge is not fully complete anymore, right? So the Rig Vedas currently have like over 10,500 verses that are available to this date, in this current age and time. And it's probably the largest Veda that's present. Sama, Yagyur, and Atharva Vedas have even less than that now. So, so now, so this is now the body of Vedas, which is being present at this point in time, right? This is what we have, but some of the Vedas are lost, right? And so even to understand the complete Vedas, we have incomplete Vedas now. And to understand this incomplete Vedas is not going to be possible, right? To understand the complete. So it gets very overwhelming, very confusing. And trying to get to the right conclusion of the Vedas, it's just becoming more and more impossible. So on top of that, here in the particular verse, Vyasadeva is basically qualified, right? It says in this verse, I am fully equipped with everything required in the Vedas. So Vyasadeva doesn't have any defects. It's not Vyasadeva that has defects. He's the literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we consider this Vyasadeva in this Yuga cycle, he's the expansion himself, right? So we talked about all the avatars and incarnations and stuff. He's a plenary portion. He's not an empowered jiva. And he is the one who wrote the Shrimadbhagavatam, right? And he wrote other Vedic literatures too, but rather Vyasadeva is the expansion of Krishna himself. So there's no defect in him, right? Krishna is perfect, and what Srimad Bhagavatam he gives is also perfect. The Vedas are perfect. It's just that we don't have all the information. So Vyasadeva is not contaminated, but the three modes of material nature, that we have talked about, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvic, those are not, Vyasadeva is also not affected by any of those three modes of material nature, right? We may be affected, but he's not affected. And by such, these three modes of nature, they influence everything in this world, right? Everything that's happening in this world. But Vyasadeva, he can see into the future. He also understands, the situation of Kali Yuga and how they're affected by these three modes of material nature. So, because he understands that the situation is getting more dire, right? Like, they're not going to understand the Vedas. We don't even have the complete Vedas. How is the situation of Kali Yuga at this time? What is he going to do? He gives us the Mahabharata, right? The Mahabharata. So, and why does he give us this Mahabharata? Because it gives us the summary of the Vedas in the form of stories, right? These formulas of the Vedas is going to be difficult for us to understand. We're not going to get it. So how to create a way that we can understand the Mahabharata is stories, right? So stories, people like to hear stories, right? In this age of Kali, at least right now, and stuff. So in the form of stories in the Mahabharata, he gives us all kinds of information. The political information, diplomacy, he gives us so many pastimes and so forth. And at the end of the Mahabharata, what is presented? Bhagavad Gita, exactly. So at the end of Mahabharata, he gives us even Bhagavad Gita, which is the philosophy, right? It's the real meaning of this Mahabharata is what this is. The conclusion is this Bhagavad Gita, right? And Bhagavad Gita philosophy, it basically lets us know who's Krishna, right? What is our connection to Krishna? Who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And what it means to have this with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this Bhagavad Gita is vitally important because it helps us understand what eventually we have to learn in the Vedas, right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, it's written in chapter 15, text 15. This is a very important verse that we've mentioned quite a few times in association with this particular chapter in Shrimadbhagavatam. Sarvasya chaham ridsanivisto mata smirtir gyahanam apohanam cha vedas chair sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham. So here Krishna is saying, it in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, Vedas is all knowledge, right? And forgetfulness. So he also helps us forget. And by all that I am to be known, indeed, I'm the compiler of the Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. So here Krishna, without a doubt, this is perfect. It is Krishna, it's coming from Krishna, he's the compiler, and it also we have to, is knowing Krishna. So, Krishna is to be known by all the Vedas. So, by studying the Vedas, we may have some different understanding because we are not perfect. But if we approach Bhagavad Gita through Guru Parampara, so this Guru Parampara is very important. And we see even Vyasadeva is approaching who? his spiritual master, Narada Muni, right? So if we can go and follow the disciplic succession, then we can come to the right conclusion straight away, okay, right away. Because to study the Vedas, are you going to be able to do it in this age of Kali? No, right? Vyasadeva has very kindly given us Mahabharata, which then gives us Bhagavad Gita, which then, right, slowly, if we do it under the instructions of a spiritual, we can get the conclusions, right? So one time in India, Srila Prabhupada, he was with a lot of scholars, and they were all assembled together. Scholars were assembled, and in front of Srila Prabhupada, and they were they were masters of the Vedas, right? They knew it, and they knew many, many Sri Upanishads, they knew so many things. And they were all sitting in front of Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada asked them, to all of them, okay, so you've studied the Vedas, right? You have come to the can you come to the conclusion of who the Supreme Lord is? What is the absolute? So ask these scholars, right? Vedic scholars, what is the conclusion? And who is the Supreme Lord? So they were discussing, and they finally came to the conclusion that they cannot say. They're like, we cannot say. They cannot come to the conclusion. And that is the right conclusion. To not come to a conclusion is the right conclusion. This is what they said, these Vedas.
Excuse me, were these Mayavad scholars?
They were Vedantists, so probably maybe not Mayavadi, or they maybe have studied the Vedas. So, and Guru hasn't explicitly said that, so I can't say.
Okay.
So, but there was a Gurukul child, a child from the Gurukul, the school, and he was sitting there. She asked him, what is the conclusion of the Vedas? And the Gurukul child immediately said that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? And so Srila Prabhupada looked at all the scholars and said, just look at this kid, right? This child from our movement. He hears from a bona fide spiritual master, right? He's hearing from pure devotees, and he can come up with the right conclusion so immediately, right? But here we have those, gathered here, have studied the Vedas. They're elderly, but they still cannot come up with the conclusion of the Vedas. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And in this age of Kali, we also have the issue of duplicity, right? What is this? Is that people act like they are Brahmanas, right? Like they're Vedic scholars. Oh, the Vedas. Oh, I know Krishna. That happens a lot, right? But actually, they don't know who is Krishna, So this happened one time in India, this devotee, right? He was working and he had a boss, and, the boss, was had a Brahmin thread and so forth, and he invited everyone in office for his son's thread ceremony, like that Brahmin ceremony that many do in India. And so it was a big ceremony. Hundreds of people were there, and there was prashadam or some food being offered. There were nice gifts being offered. They were following all the Vedic rituals, right? There was a big yajna. There was all the Vedic mantras were being spoken and so forth. And then, as this devotee started to see the boss, right? It was the environment at home was very impressive, very full of Vedic, empowerment. But then when he started understanding the behavior of the boss, looking closely at his activities, right? Being a business person, a CEO or whatnot, he was involved in smoking and drinking and all kinds of meat eating for the profession and stuff. But at home, he had this very pious life, right? Putting tilak on, doing all these Vedic mantras and so forth like that. But this is duplicity, right? If you act one way in one environment and act another way, this happens all the time in Kali Yuga. And this dislipic nature, it's difficult to understand who's who, right? So someone can appear to be a Brahmana, but they're actually very duplicit in their acts and stuff. So even in the Puranas, it says that you should be careful because sometimes demons take shelter in the families of Brahmanas, right? So in this age of Kali, it can be very difficult to see who's who understands what and stuff. So it's very important to have proper guidance, right? To have a spiritual master who is following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. And that's why in Bhagavad Gita even, Srila Prabhupada has given us the list of all those who follow in the disciplic succession. So we don't have to guess or go wayward or understand like, oh, who's this person, and hear from them, right? So by gradual study of the Vedas, we can come to the right conclusion, but this is the power of Krishna consciousness. When we engage in devotional service, when we engage in coming to the temples, when we hear from the spiritual master, all of these different activities that we're doing help us come to the conclusion of what these Vedas are. And we know that Vyasadeva, when he started, and the instructions that he gets, that when he started emphasizing bhakti, right, the process of devotional service, in the Shrimadbhagavatam, that is when dissatisfaction will change to satisfaction, right? So Krishna is clearly mentioned in as the Supreme Personality, and bhakti is clearly mentioned, the process of bhakti in Shrimadbhagavatam. So this is what will change Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction.
How far do you have to go into Bhagavatam until he starts the mentions?
Within the next chapter.
Oh, next chapter, okay.
It will come soon. Yeah. So we can see, I know we've been talking about this dissatisfaction for quite some time, but we can also thank Srila Prabhupada, right? Because Srila Prabhupada, in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, how does he start? Right? It starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right? So even many scholars of Vedic knowledge, right? They may not even start with this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right? They might go to different parts of it or whatnot. But we can see even Srila Prabhupada, what was he doing? He was pushing Krishna to the fore information, right? This vast amount of knowledge. You can learn so many different things, but what was the main thing that Srila Prabhupada was giving us? Was Krishna, right? The Gurukul kid, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. Jai, right? So, you know, I'm, at least for myself, I'm very grateful to Srila Prabhupada because he gave us all this Krishna conscious information, and right from the beginning, he's giving us Krishna, right? He doesn't give us so many formulas. He doesn't say, you know, da-da-da-da-da. Like, he gives us rules and regulations, but they immediately take us to Krishna, right? Chanting 16, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This Maha Mantra, direct connection to Krishna, right? Following these regulative principles, there's so many different ways to follow principles within the Vedas, but he gives this to us very simply, right? No meat eating, no sex, no gambling, no intoxication, right? So very quickly, by following these, the 4 pillars of Dharma are upheld, and we can easily come to this process of bhakti, right? To come Krishna. So, in the teachings of Vyasadeva, this conversation that Narad Muni and Vyasadeva are going to have now, it's very important instructions are going to be given. And you'll see that Narad Muni, and also as we read in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that this process of jnana karma, jnana kanda, like this, just not going to take you to the conclusion, right? It is the process of bhakti that is going to give you the conclusions of the Vedas. So we'll see this conversation taking place. But Srila Prabhupada has given us this very wonderful text so that we can all understand it in this age of Kali, and we don't have to go through tons and tons of Vedas and Puranas and so many stutis to try to understand the conclusion of Vedas. We can simply understand it very easily by just studying Bhagavad Gita and Shrimadbhagavatam. We start studying Bhagavad Gita beginning when we're talking and preaching and introducing people to Krishna consciousness. We give them Bhagavad Gita. And as they progress in Bhagavad Gita and start doing their masters, we go into Shrimadbhagavatam. So, but as we read, like, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but as I'm reading Bhagavad Gita, so many times Shrimadbhagavatam is, right, quoted, or the concepts of Shrimadbhagavatam are given in Bhagavad Gita. Many times when reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, like in this one, right, so many verses of Bhagavad Gita are correlated in here. So this is the beauty of these two books. And if we study nothing else but these two books, Jay, you've reached the conclusion of the Vedas. And you will become satisfied. So Ken and Vyasadeva will become satisfied, and we'll see how. So that is what I had to say today. So don't get all the Vedas. We will get to the good parts of it very quick by following the Shrimadbhagavatam. So thank you so much. Dhanvat pranams. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. If anyone has any questions or comments, we can talk about it.
So,
Yeah.
is it possible, like nowadays, to buy what's left of the Vedas, or is that like a truckload of pages?
It's still a truckload.
We're talking hundreds of thousands of pages.
Let's talk about Mahabharata, okay? 100,000 verses.
Just in Mahabharata.
100,000?
Yes.
Shrimadbhagavatam, you see how many books we have?
That's just 80, yes.
Just 1,800 verses.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no way under the sun you could ever learn any
And
of
this
it.
is just, this is the cream of the
Yeah.
crop, right?
Okay.
This is like, and stuff. Yes, an entire room can be filled with the
Okay,
Vedas.
wow.
Right? So, good luck. You can. I'm not going to say you can't study the Vedas. Please feel free to but
Goodness gracious, no, good Lord, I'll never
good luck finishing it in your lifetime.
I won't finish this in my lifetime, much less the Vedas.
This you can do. This is doable, right? Every day
That's right.
we keep studying.
I'm pretty good. I'm actually like 700 pages ahead of you guys, so I'm all right at the moment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mike.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. We can take prasadam now. So, Dhanvat pranams. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.